introduction, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull up some slides for us. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to our panelists. We're really excited to host a kind of casual chat today, which we're calling our Fireside Chat from WebCheckout, best practices for running inventories in higher education. So just for those of you who don't know, my name is Carolyn Millman. I'm our marketing manager here at WebCheckout, and I'm co-hosting today's call with Sean Farrell, who's our account executive here at WebCheckout. And we have a couple friendly customers who we've all worked with in the past before on the call to share their experiences today. So I'll go ahead and move to our agenda here. And just a quick note, we are recording today's call. So just so you're aware of that, and we'll be sharing a recording of today's call after the call, along with some additional information for everyone who's attending. So basically we have a simple rundown of today and what we're going to talk about. We'll do some simple introductions so you can get to know our customers on the call. We'll allow them to share a few experiences about their operations and how they run and how they use WebCheckout to manage their inventory and technical equipment. Each panelist will have about 5 to 10 minutes to share about their operations. And then we'll have a longer period towards the end where you can write in our chat function to share a question with one or more of the panelists, and we'll have a question and answer portion for them. And then after that, we'll just wrap it up with a quick closing and send you on your way. So with that, I guess I will pass it off to Sean, if you want to do a quick intro for yourself, and then we'll intro our panelists here.
Sounds good, and I'll stop drinking coffee. Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Farrell. I'm an account executive here. I got to give a quick shout out. I haven't seen you in a while, Susan. Good to see you, Susan. I work with new business at WebCheckout. My primary responsibility is getting to understand a university or college's use case and to make sure that we're a right fit for them, and then working on a partnership from there. But I'm the least exciting person on the phone right now. Let's go ahead and move it on to some of our customers who are going to tell us a little bit. So Carolyn, who should go first?
Sure. Annie, would you mind kicking us off with a little bit of an introduction about yourself and your university?
Sure. Are you sharing slides, or am I just reading?
I have a slide up with your name, but we can just do some quick intros.
Okay. So hi, my name is Annie Lau. I work at Santa Clara University in California. So it is 8 a.m. for me. So we have been with WebCheckout for about almost 4 years. We started out talking to Eric and Lee with a lot on what we were currently doing at the time, and we basically manage a request fulfillment database off of Access. And we were using Zeus inventory tool and managing check-in and checkouts, but we didn't really like it. And then the licensing was ending. So I think WebCheckout reached out to us, and then we started to talk. WebCheckout was really willing to let us customize what we want, and we end up paying some money to expedite some of the process so we can get our operation moved to WebCheckout right away. So a little bit about what we do. We support about 250 technology enhanced classrooms or conference rooms, and we also provide delivery setup and breakdown of the portable technologies for the rest of the campus, whether it's indoor or outdoors. We are a team of 5 staff with about 55 students. And we typically handle, pre-COVID, we typically handle about 120 requests each day. And about 85% of them consist of faculty, staff wanting us to deliver equipment to certain locations instead of they coming in to pick up equipment or media. So our inventory is most of the time tracking whether or not our students are doing their job, whether or not they deliver the equipment and bring it back on time. Instead of, I know a lot of campuses do it like quarterly, annually, making sure everything they have present. We only keep track of our large amount, high value items. That is laptops, DSLRs. We have some small camcorders that we use to film events and classes that don't have cameras in them. And we need to make sure they're back by the end of the day so we can re-image the computer, process the footage, things like that. So that's what we use MIA for. How we run the inventories. We make sure, our goal is to make sure our students are picking up equipment, not just marking it on either WebCheckout or marking it on their assignment sheet that, oh yeah, they did it. What we use is, we use a laptop with Bluetooth feature, and we use an RFID handheld scanner with Bluetooth enabled connecting to the laptop. WebCheckout was actually really great. They worked with us to enable the feature to accept multiple RFID tags at the same time in the MIA enter the barcode area. So instead of typing in one by one, the RFID can do it en masse, which is really, really great. It speed up our process dramatically. And we do this process twice a day. So we do it in the morning to make sure everything is ready in the, we call it the computer room. So the inventory with the high value items, and making sure everything is there and ready to go. And then we do it in the mid-afternoon, about 3 to 4 p.m. to make sure all the morning equipment has already came back, and we can making sure equipments are here. We're doing imagings and processing the camera footage, and then the rest of the day, inventory will be done the following morning. And that is pretty much what we do. Am I taking question, or am I letting other people?
That was great, Annie. I think we'll go ahead and move on to Katie, if you want to tell us a little bit about your operations, and then once we're through the introductions, we'll move on to the more in-depth presentations. So I will hand it off to Katie to take us away.
Did you want me to go through our operations, or this was just saying hi?
You could just do a quick intro, and then we'll circle back around for the more in details. Thanks, Katie.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Klosterman, and I'm the Asset Management Lead for LSA Technology Services here at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. The College of Literature, Science, and the Arts has been using WebCheckout since, I believe, 2007 to manage their circulating audiovisual collection that serves faculty, staff, and students, really just in any way to further their educational pursuits, as well as installed audiovisual equipment in classrooms and conference rooms across campus. Roughly 20 buildings, 8,000 to 10,000 active items there. And I've been managing that process for close to 10 years here.
Awesome. And then I think we have Mary to give a quick intro. I know Annie already gave a lot of information, so we may focus on you two for the presentation section. Sorry about the kind of confusion there, but I think Mary, we could use a nice little intro from you as well. a little bit
Yeah,
about yourself.
hi, my name is Mary Gracie. I work here at Loyola University, New Orleans. In the Media Services Department, we manage our portable equipment loan process for students, staff, and faculty, as well as managing all of the classrooms, the enhanced classrooms on campus and our high flex classrooms. So we manage all of the equipment, the presentation equipment, and that new high flex equipment, and about 45 pool classrooms and another 50 or so departmental classrooms. We're a very small university, especially compared to the other two universities here on campus and here on the call. And we've got a pretty small department of only 3 employees and 4 student employees this semester. So our checkout center is much smaller than most other universities, but we have only about 5,000 undergrad students, I believe, at Loyola. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Mary. So now that everyone kind of has a little bit of a feel for who's on the call today, I want to go back to Katie if you want to share some more details about your operation. And then we'll have Mary present after that. And I think, Annie, thank you for providing so many details already. But if you have any more to share, we'll circle back to you too.
All right. As far as inventories specifically, we do one annual physical inventory usually over the summer, and that was mainly due to availability of classrooms. Our enrollment is really a lot lower over the summer, so we have an easier time getting into spaces. Like I said, we have 8,000 to 10,000 active items that we're trying to track down through that process, 20 different buildings or so, a lot of variation between standard classrooms, enhanced classrooms, conference rooms, some full building installs as they've brought new buildings online, where we're going out and kind of canvassing everything. And our process is really just focused on that location update. We want to know where everything is. We do a lot of decision making based on where things are. And then of course, all the metadata that we're cataloging when those items are coming in. But they also are capturing some, issues resolving around that. So we do use the mobile inventory module in WebCheckout. I'm able to create projects grouped by buildings or by loan center. And it makes it really easy for me to send students out with keys, a barcode scanner, and usually their own phone, a mobile device of some sort, and have them work through a list of spaces. And that they can report issues back to me directly in that project or tied to a specific item. No need to click back and forth or enter data by hand is probably the biggest thing for us, that they're really mobile, lightweight as they're traversing campus. Some of these things are, even far enough away that we need to send them on a bus to get to it. So being lightweight is nice. And the less chance for mistakes or misreading, mistyping information is really nice, having everything barcoded. And then just the amazing speed of that. We used to take all summer to find 6,000 or 7,000 items. And now we can get about 90% of that done in 3 weeks. So it's tremendous speed. And then it leaves us a lot more room to work on those issues, those things that are cropping up, of things that are out of place that we really have no idea where they went and have to do some detective work, tracing back through, or fixing things like missing barcodes or labels that aren't visible from how it's installed. Trying to think of what else they report to me usually. And then access issues is kind of always a problem too. Some departmental spaces that have changed keys, or we have some little cupboard that's holding something and we can't remember what key opens that. Working through those last little things, it always takes a little bit longer. That's kind of the general overview of what our summer inventory looks like.
Awesome, thanks for that, Katie. I think that's a really good picture of what you guys do and how your inventories are kind of structured. So thanks for that. Let's see, I'm going to move over my slides to actually Mary now, if you want to talk a little bit more in depth about how you guys operate. And I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, thank you. So we have our student employees run an inventory for all of our circulating portable equipment about once a month through WebCheckout's mobile inventory module. We have approximately 400 pieces of circulating equipment. So like I said, we're a much smaller actual checkout center than most of these large universities. But that includes, and the 400 pieces of equipment includes every dongle and SD card and USB flash drive. So it's not like we have, 100 DSLR cameras or anything. At any given time, maybe 20 items are checked out. Now, COVID certainly affected that. Our checkout process has changed, and with so few students and faculty on campus compared to normal times, we're checking out a lot less equipment overall than we did before times. Because of this, we now actually do our inventory slightly less often. So we kind of reduced it down to just once a month since there's less circulation going on and we have more time to process equipment as it's returned with the required turnaround times that we've put into place to facilitate contactless pickup and drop off for COVID. So just to give some context, we provide a variety of AV equipment, but our most common resources are laptops and DSLR cameras, probably followed by portable projectors and document cameras and webcams. And we provide to all faculty, staff, and students on campus, graduate and undergraduate. So as part of our regular circulation process, the equipment's routinely bag checked when it's returned from being checked out. So we can quickly contact the patron and if anything's missing or damaged. However, we also do bag checks when we do our official inventory. So that's when the student employee that's doing the inventory, just instead of just scanning the barcode on the outside of the laptop bag, because we use a Bluetooth handheld scanner for our inventories, just as I'm sure pretty much all of you do. They actually physically open the bag and check to make sure all the cables and accessories are inside. Nothing's missing, no, the instruction sheet's still there, nothing's damaged, and they let us know if anything needs replaced. So they do that when the equipment comes in from circulation and when we actually do the inventory, just so that we can make sure we don't need to replace any dongles or anything like that. We keep a physical accessory sheet in every equipment bag, but you can also put that information in WebCheckout, which is really helpful. You can list all the accessories that are supposed to be in equipment bags so they can double check against that. To actually physically do the inventory, I set it up with the mobile inventory module on WebCheckout, and the students take a laptop and the Bluetooth scanner and they just make their way through our equipment room in our office. Like I said, we're small, so we don't have them running around campus. We don't actually inventory like monthly our in-place assets in the classrooms. We use the mobile inventory for all of our circulating equipment. So they don't have very far to go. So it probably takes an hour or two once a month. And of course, every time we go through the process of doing an inventory, there's always discrepancies that you need to address. Missing equipment, SD cards tend to walk off. Most of the time, those discrepancies are just equipment that's been misplaced in the office somewhere, luckily. We're not missing, big several $1,000 pieces of equipment often, but we do misplace things in our office. So they have to do a little bit of a detective search sometimes to find things. And sometimes we take things out of circulation, but we forget to mark it in WebCheckout. So that's a good time for us to assess all of that, make sure that our WebCheckout information is up to date, make sure that we update condition notes for any equipment that's got any damages or anything like that. So it's really convenient having WebCheckout for both our mobile inventory for all of our circulating equipment and our actual reservations. That way we can keep all of the condition notes and everything in one place. And as I expect, we return to campus in the fall. Our university plans on returning pretty much completely in person in the fall. So we expect to be loaning out a lot more equipment pretty soon. So we'll probably be increasing our inventories, doing them more often. We're gonna loosen up our restrictions for the contactless pickup and drop off and our turnaround times in between reservations. So we're going to have a lot more coming and going of our equipment. So we'll probably be doing inventories more often. As everything goes in and out, we don't want to lose anything, and we want to make sure we can update our supply orders as often as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much our process.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. That was really detailed. And I think it was good to hear, some updates. I know a lot of universities are considering different ways to return to campus. So thanks for making a note on that. I really appreciate it. And I know that we kind of missed Annie's slide. So I will go ahead and go back to hers in case she wants to add anything about your processes, Annie. Is there anything that you'd like to kind of add after Mary and Katie shared?
Well, I apologize for just running through everything. It's too early for me. So I kind of briefly touched on pre-COVID, where we do a lot of setups, and therefore we were doing inventory twice a day. Right now, we are not actually doing any inventory at all, because due to COVID, most of our equipment are on long-term checkout to faculty and staff. So like when they check out the laptop, they had it for a full year. So we don't expect it going anywhere. And we have 3 laptops that's currently on circulating in case anyone's computer, like the laptop we check out, is broken, that they need to swap out and get repaired. And with 3 laptops, we don't really check inventory. So.
I guess, Annie, do you have any kind of notes about how that you think that might change in the future with things kind of in transition?
Like other schools, we expect to be fully open in fall. I think our biggest challenge right now is to get all the computers back from the faculty and staff. They tend to be, they tend to, when they need help, they need it right away. But when we want the equipment back, they usually take their time. So I think we're going to have a gap where we are receiving requests, but we don't have laptops or cameras to check out at this point. But hopefully once everything died down, we should go back to doing inventory regularly, twice a day. And but we will probably also see overall decrease in the need for technology, because in order to prep for COVID, our campus actually did a lot of upgrade this past year. While the rooms were empty, we upgraded almost every single classroom with cameras. So we actually work with WebCheckout to implement a custom field to, we have Panopto recording services. We are right now testing scheduling Panopto recording right off of WebCheckout. So I will put in the request saying that this particular room has WebCheckout, has Panopto recorders. And if a particular item is scheduled, the schedule will kick in, and our programmer is helping us creating all the error messages in case we double book and stuff like that. We are in the testing phase, and hopefully in the fall or maybe in the winter, we can completely roll out in our live instance. So I want to thank WebCheckout, especially support teams, that we bug them almost on a daily basis. But yeah.
Awesome. That's really exciting, and I'll be interested to see, when that's up and live. And yeah, so thanks for those details, Annie. I know I kind of put you on the spot there after the beginning, so I appreciate that. Now we'll have kind of an open forum for questions. So I know there's probably been a couple in the chat, and I think Sean is going to help us go through a couple of those and answer those.
Yeah, that's right, Carolyn. So the first question would be, and I think this is going to be for all 3 of you. What is your process or model on how you train students to be agents in web checkout? So agents, window workers, that kind of thing.
Oh, Katie's going to speak to that one first.
Want me to jump in? So I think there's kind of two worlds with training students. Circulation is it's kind of its own beast. So we have a pretty rigorous training set up for them to act as window workers in that circulation role. I don't manage the loan centers. That's kind of their own. There's another supervisor over them. So I can't speak to the supreme details, but she's got that down to a science. They do have some training spreadsheets that are kind of like checklists that the older students or more experienced students are leading them through. But I think in general, it's gotten easier over the years. The students that we're bringing in, that they kind of take to the software a little bit more naturally than maybe 10 years ago did. And kudos to WebCheckout for continually refining that interface and making it more user-friendly, so that it's not as big of a curve. But of course, it's a complicated business that you guys live in. So there's a lot of details and there's a lot of process wrapped around the software that needs some training for sure. For me though, for mobile inventory specifically, my goal is that I don't need to train anyone. I borrow from the loan pool of student workers over the summer. I have one dedicated student worker during the school year that is helping me catalog that inventory, intake things into the system and dispose of things through the system. But over the summer, the loan desk does drop in activity, and a lot of students are still eager for hours. And so I try to capitalize on that and borrow them. They have just enough exposure to WebCheckout to be familiar navigating it, and just being able to hand them a scanner and show them how to hook that up to their phone and get to a project, and then hand them some keys and say, look for stuff. That's always been my goal, is to get it where they don't need a whole lot of specific training from me to go canvas spaces.
Katie, I should have asked a follow-up question too, but I think it does really well right here, actually. What is the learning curve for it? Or if anything, probably more time-wise, how long does it take for you to train up a student for inventorying or even just working in WebCheckout?
For inventorying specifically, since that's the nature of my world, I've just found it really handy to have some Google documentation that go through a lot of the specifics of how we like things cataloged, what data is going where, how we're a lot of copying and pasting from other systems, right? So just some specifics about where to plug and play some spaces. It doesn't take me very long. Usually I have a new student every fall. And within a month, I feel like they're pretty well versed in what I want them to do. And of course, there's some checks behind them. I do a fair amount of follow-up. If there's something that they need to tweak, I tend to let them do that themselves. And just having a reference is a big thing for them. Since they're only doing like 10 to 12 hours a week, I don't expect them to have everything memorized, and having somewhere that they can refer back to is really handy. I'd say for the loan desk, it's probably even shorter than that, just because they're on staff all the time with a more experienced worker and some full-time staff. They have a chance to ask questions kind of right there, where my work is much more task-based. I kind of depend on them to be able to just show up when they said they were going to and do whatever in front of them, the next task. So yeah, I'd say the learning curve's pretty short.
Thank you so much, Katie. What about Annie, Mary, your thoughts on how you train students and what the learning curve is for your departments?
So we also have two groups of students. So I manage the 55 that are actually doing the task, where everything is already in, all the orders are already in WebCheckout from the circulation part. There's a group of about 7 to 8 students that another supervisor manage that are at the front window taking in the request. So our students focus on how to match equipment, scan into an allocation, and then check the equipment out and check equipment back in. For them, because this is, we spend about 4 hours in our annual training week. We spend about a whole week training our student ins and outs of every equipment, how to set up, how to tape down cables, things like that. So out of those, about 4 hours is on training how to use WebCheckout, actually hands-on, everybody log in, and then I will give them assignment as if somebody calling in for a request. This is how you put it in, and this is how you return it, and what if you run into issues. And with the front desk student, they will receive the same 4-hour training. And then in addition, the help desk supervisor go through probably additional 6 to 8 hours of training on help desk specific things. Other than that, it will be an ongoing with more experienced veterans shadowing the new student, make sure they're completely comfortable with it. And we have a couple senior position students where we give them additional privilege, admin rights to add and manage equipment in more details. Overall, I think within the first month, a month and a half, everybody is proficient in using WebCheckout. And once they are proficient with it, doing inventory is much easier. We typically only spend about half an hour teaching a person how to copy the inventory templates and open the projects, how to connect the RFID scanners, and do the inventory. With the RFID scanner, because it's not barcode, we don't have open the bags. Doing inventory is probably 15 to 20 minutes. Not including trying to look for the stuff that are missing. Occasionally the bag is stacked in a way that RFID is not being scanned. So if they find equipment missing, they have to manually check to make sure the equipment is in the bag, not just an empty bag on the shelf. But yes, overall, and probably a month and a half plus half an hour for inventory training only for the people who ends up working the shift that needs to do inventory per quarter. So
yeah, I would agree with what they both said. The learning curve is pretty short. I mean, I'd say that our students take to the WebCheckout software really quickly. It doesn't take very long. It's pretty intuitive. They handle most of our equipment process as far as like pulling the equipment from the equipment room, staging it for the patrons, returning it back in WebCheckout when it's brought back. They handle all of that on their own, and we're pretty confident that they're competent at it. And we make sure they have task lists every day so they don't forget to do something. But and we have detailed instructions, like training instructions for the students that they can reference if they want to. But we're also full-time staff here, so we're here all the time to answer any questions they've got. And as far as like a new student training, I mean, I'd say within a week, we're pretty confident that they know what they're doing when it's comes to navigating around WebCheckout. And doing the inventories is very simple. That takes no time at all to teach them how to do that. I mean, we actually create the inventory job in WebCheckout, and then we hand them the barcode scanner and the laptop, and it's essentially just, okay, walk around and scan things and check bags. So we actually have one of our student employees who's remote this past year, who didn't want to be on campus, taking all of his classes online. So we put him in charge of doing all of our WebCheckout reservations. So he sits at home, pulls up our reservation form that we have our patrons actually fill out to request equipment, and he makes all the reservations in WebCheckout for us. He's our WebCheckout expert on staff, honestly. He knows the system better, at least as good as all of us full-time staff do. So he handles all of that on his own, totally remote. You know, we don't look over his shoulder for it. We'll double check every now and then just to make sure he got the pickup or drop off times correct. But in general, he's excellent. And, you know, we rely on our students a lot for using WebCheckout. So they take to it very quickly. I wouldn't say there's much of a learning curve at all.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. And now we have another question. This one's going to be a fun one to answer. How has the adaptation of WebCheckout changed your decisions I'm sorry, your decision-making processes and your relationship with your leadership and finance department regarding equipment purchasing. And actually, I might as well just direct that instead of the whole everybody at once kind of thing. But actually, Mary, since you just went, do you have any thoughts on that question?
So the question, how has WebCheckout changed how we purchase new equipment? Is that what it?
Yeah, kind of. I would say the summary version of that would, making sure I'm not on mute, would be, how has having WebCheckout helped with your relationship with leadership in order to purchase more equipment? So I guess, getting this kind of data, how has that helped you and your goal to purchase more equipment, if you even have that goal, of course?
Got it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'd say we always have that goal. But as a really small university, we don't exactly have a budget for purchasing new equipment often. But that being said, keeping a detailed inventory is always important to make sure that you can, you actually, know if you need new equipment. So if, for instance, if we were doing an inventory, we realized one of our DSLR cameras was missing a lens and we needed to purchase a whole new lens. We need to make sure we've got like a record of those items being inventoried, or not being inventoried. So, I mean, keeping detailed inventory is obviously very important for knowing if you need to purchase new equipment, and also backing that up with, I guess, data. But as far as, I'd say in a more general sense, WebCheckout does provide data on how often equipment is checked out. And so, for instance, if there's a discrepancy of how many requests we get for Mac laptops, and we only have 4 in circulation, but we get a ridiculous number of requests for them from students who need them to do their classes, then we can actually pull data from WebCheckout of how often these laptops are checked out and how often they're in circulation to back up our request for purchasing new laptops. So, and that's something that we actually do reports at the end of the semester of, we use WebCheckout for physical spaces as well. We have some rooms that we actually, well, not during COVID times, but before COVID times, we had these rooms that we'd reserve here in the library for student use. And so, at the end of each semester, we'll pull the WebCheckout data to see how often they were used and pull an actual report to send to administration to show them, this seminar room was used by these committees this many times during the semester, and information like that. So I think it all comes back to keeping a detailed inventory and having the data of how often items are checked out or requested. And that can help with working with your administration or your, financial office of purchasing to request new equipment when it's needed and by students or faculty.
Annie, do you have any thoughts on that question?
Pretty much the same. We use WebCheckout's report function to see how busy these equipments are being utilized and whether or not we need to increase. On the next refresh, we get new laptop about every 3 to 4 years. I believe 3 year for PC and 4 year for Macs. And we currently own about 50 of each. And that was because before we only had about 20 Macs and then 50 PCs. And because implementation with WebCheckout, we were able to document how many times that because our student delivers equipment and pick up equipment, the student had to pick up the Mac from one location without coming back to the office, deliver it to another location. And basically the front desk person in the office would have to manually update the WebCheckout record to saying that it's been returned from this user and checking out to another user. And because of that, we had to do inventory in case of student forget to updating the online records. So we were able to say that Mac was utilized a lot more than what we can accommodate, and we need to purchase more computer. So we are now at about 50 laptop each. And because of COVID, we just drastically increased the amount of laptops because faculty request from us, and this campus does not want to purchase computer to faculties directly. So they purchased it. They asked us to handle all the purchasings and set up the computer and to do the checkout process. So I have no idea how many computer we have at this point, because it went through IT, purchase it, image it, and then we add it to the inventory, immediately checks out. So like I don't have a visual amount of computer and everything being checked out right now. So
I think after COVID, a lot of people had that, Annie. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. Lots of laptops being bought during the pandemic. Katie, I haven't forgotten about you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to that question?
Yeah, I guess that everybody's, the specifics around circulating items, I think, in WebCheckout is invaluable about turn down reports, being able to say, hey, this was requested and we weren't able to fulfill it. I know our circulation supervisor uses that frequently in making some of her budget requests. But I would say on kind of the other end of the spectrum, if anyone's worried about budget replacement for in-place assets, that's more my focus. I do a lot of work with our leadership teams on making sure we have money to replace aging equipment out in the field. So like I said, we're kind of a pretty big organization, widespread across campus. We do a lot of work for colleges outside of ours as well. So we kind of help them facilitate those conversations with their leadership as well. And I would say that we ask for between 900,000 and 1.2, 1.3 million every year in replacement money to the provost's office and some bigger leadership teams across the university to help fund that, because our school is kind of the gen ed. We have the most classrooms, we cover the most space. We're everywhere. There's a lot of stuff to manage, and we really couldn't do it without a robust database that I can summarize efficiently for our leadership teams to take that forward, and that they trust that we know what we've got and what we need to do, and that we're not asking for the same thing repeatedly. It's helped us a lot in the last, I'd say, 5 years. We've gotten very formal with that process.
Thank you, Katie. And since I just left off with you, the next question is, after scanning resources, what is the rest of your process for doing an inventory?
Like I said, it's that 90% is really just scanning the easy stuff. It's reconciling through the application where we haven't had the right location for something. That's what's beautiful about that application is that it prompts right away if you've scanned something that wasn't supposed to be there, and you can update it right from there, or vice versa. If there's something that you're looking for in a space and you're having trouble finding it, that you can make notes right on there to say, we got to track this down somewhere else. But the rest of the process is mitigating those issues, right? I get down to about 200 things every year that are some serious notes, and talking to my engineers that have installed stuff, or the technicians that are supporting live events out in the field, what might have happened to something, and kind of chasing down those things. And then setting us up better for the next year. I do a lot of filling out of location note. That was a field that I had requested, so that I can get more granular with details like, hey, this is above the projector in the ceiling, or in a pack box behind a television. Giving my students, like I said, clues. My goal is to get everything right there at their fingertips, that I don't need to do a bunch of training. I don't need to walk them out to a space to show them how they might find something, that I'm giving it all through that application, right at their fingertips. Those little location notes come with a little compass. And then marking stuff is missing, you know, eventually at the end, that's our culmination of the project, is to close out those things that we're ready to give up on and kind of have leadership sign off on that and move them off our books, so that they're not just kind of repeatedly there every year.
Thank you, Katie. And I'll ask Annie the same question. What about you?
So because we do inventory twice a day, pretty much our goal is to confirm the equipment is present, and RFID is super glued onto the equipment. So I know in the previous web checkout sort of customer forms, we talk about people removing RFID, leave it in the bag so it scans like the equipment's present. We don't really have that problem with the super glue RFID tags. So our goal is to simply make sure the equipment is there, and up on before and after each delivery and pickup, we make sure all the accessories in there. But that's about what we do.
Mary, do you have anything to add to that?
I agree with what Katie said, basically following through with discrepancies in the inventory. So as soon as they finish their full inventory, they're sure they've gotten everything in the office, then we go through and find all the things that weren't inventoried and figure out, are they in the office? Do they still exist? Are they missing? Who had them last? And decide if we need to replace those items, what happened to them, and if we need to submit supply orders to order new things. Essentially, it's mostly just going through the discrepancies, and if there's anything like missing in the bags, making sure that we replace them, redoing any instruction sheets and stuff like that. So it's a process that, you know, it'll take a day or two to make sure we, you know, actually go through all of those discrepancies and follow through with them. But that's pretty much it. Once we're sure that everything is accounted for, then we move on and do the next inventory and do it over and over again.
Thank you, Mary. And I do want to note to everybody, we have three questions, three more questions. If we can't fit them in, then we'll address these questions via email for you. But on to the next one, maybe we can. The next statement is, Annie mentioned using WebCheckout to manage long-term loans. Question for Annie and the rest of the panel: do you use WebCheckout to assign faculty and staff devices for long-term use pre-pandemic? And if so, do you manage those assignments any differently than short-term loans? And Annie, I'll start with you.
So with long-term loans, it's the same as the short-term, where we create a reservation and check out to the user and set the renewal date. Right now, we're setting it to June 11th, which is the last day of final exam for us. And then we will reach out after the reservation has passed. And for our faculty, most likely that is the case, because they will tell you they still need to publish grades, and then they go on summer vacation. They will return first day of school or something like that. And that's when we extend the reservations. And in the meantime, in the mobile inventory, it shows as a little exclamation mark. So we know that it's being checked out, and we don't try to keep track those items when we do inventory. And sorry, I'm looking at the chats. And once they're back, they are going back to the same pool and treated the same as everything else. If there is a checkout circulating equipment being temporarily putting into a location for an extended period of time, we actually change the home location from, instead of allocation, checking out to a person. In this case, we're installing in a location. We will change the home location to wherever that building, that room is. And on the right side of the mobile inventory, it will show a little compass mark instead of a checkout mark on the left side. So.
Thank you, Annie. Katie, I was going to ask if you had anything to add. Would you like me to ask that question again? Because it was kind of long.
I've got it open in the chat.
Oh, well then, oh, that's right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Long-term loan, we're still, if it's truly a loan, we are trying to use the checkout system, and like everyone's saying, just extending those when people call to renew things. We have some automatic reminders that go out 12 hours before it's due, and that usually prompts a response to say, hey, I need this longer. Long-term loan was not something we really ever did before pre-pandemic. We tried to avoid it really. Our standard length is like 3 days, so it's a whole different beast. We also, like everyone has said, ballooned our loan collection. We have a lot more video recording kits for at-home video projects, a ton more laptops. I think we went from like 40 to over 250. It just is it was out of control. A lot of graphic tablets to help with math equation writing or chemistry work. That was paper assignments, trying to adapt that. We bought probably 180 of those. It's been fun. As far as assigning things to people, I did do that for staff. So if I had a laptop that I would have historically had a home location for it, but I didn't expect to really find it in that space because it's traveling with that person, that's where I kind of had asked Lee about an assigned to person or an assigned to department, and a way to have that so that when I'm doing my physical inventory, I knew who something should be with. And then I still reach out to those people. And this year we're doing everything by pictures. But before I would just say, hey, at our next staff meeting, would you mind showing me, what device you have, just to make sure I've got the right one with you, because, things happen, service and support during the year. Not everything gets documented when people swap things out because of issues. So yeah, I use both, I guess. We do kind of everything now.
Yep, Mary, I'm sure I'm going to call to you. Do you have?
Yeah, so same thing that Annie and Katie said. We if before pandemic, we tried not to do long-term loans. Our typical loan period was a couple of days, but during the pandemic, we extended most of our equipment to week-long loans. That's what we try to keep it to, but we definitely have some long-term loans out. So we have like these web conferencing kits that faculty check out with webcams to use to do like a simulated HyFlex for their classes. And those will check out for an entire semester. We have a couple of faculty who have checked out laptops long-term and document cameras for the whole year even. And we treat those just like they were a short-term reservation in WebCheckout. So we just set the end date to the last day of classes or last day of finals and contact them as it gets close and see if they need it longer or if they plan on returning it and when. And as far as, so we don't treat that any differently. As far as like equipment that we stick in like a classroom or something like that long-term, it depends on if it's a temporary thing. So if we like are missing a professor walked off with a lapel mic in one of our classrooms and we need to put in a new temporary one. If we know it's going to be temporary, we just treat it like a reservation, just like before. So we would actually check it out to us and put in the allocation notes which classroom it's in and then return it when we get to swap it back out. But if we're going to stick it into a classroom for like a whole semester, then we actually just take it out of circulation and put in the location notes where it is. So that way it's not mixed in with all of our circulating equipment. So we don't have to worry about trying to inventory it whenever we do inventories. But in general, long-term loans to our patrons, we treat just like short-term loans.
Thank you, Mary. And the last question, I'm not going to call on anybody because it may just be for whoever does this. Does anyone here integrate WebCheckout with another ticketing system?
I'd say our answer is no.
Yeah. Well, we don't integrate it with another system, but we output data to Google Sheets for signs for the classrooms. So for schedule, also for digital signage, it goes to Rise Vision. So one thing we'd love is if that process were easier for web checkout to talk to Google Forms or Sheets, can't remember which one, for outputting data for digital signage.
Well, Susan, I'm going to have to get your account manager on the line, so I'll have someone reach out to you today about that and see what we can do. And I believe, Carolyn, that's all of our questions, so I'll let you take it from here.
All right, thanks so much, Sean. Thanks to Katie, Mary, and Annie, and Susan. Thank you for popping in. I think this is really informative, and it's always great to share experiences and how different operations work. So that was really great, and we appreciate all the time and effort. I hope everyone gained something out of today's kind of panel meeting. I know I certainly learned a little bit more about your operations and how they function. If anything did pop up today and you want to learn more about WebCheckout as a system, feel free to reach out to our account executive, Sean, and I'll have his contact details at the end of this presentation. Our customers are amazing, and our team is too. And if your inventory is something that could use a solution like ours, we're happy to show you a demo or work with you on that. Tight little plug there. And I'll leave Sean's info on the screen here just so you can see. But thank you for joining today. And I guess I'll wrap up a minute early. If anyone has any other questions, we will have an email going out after this call that has a recording of today's call. And additional information about some of the systems that our panelists use, so our mobile inventory app as well. So with that, just thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday afternoon, and you can finish sipping on that morning coffee now if that's your time zone. But again, just thanks for joining everybody, and stay tuned for more web checkout updates in the future.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. And thank you to our panelists.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.